Welcome to the April 18th, 2024 meeting of the Town of Concord Historical Commission. My name is Alan Bogosian. Should we admit? We are conducting this meeting online in accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order. Hold on a second. Suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Members of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment and discussions following the petitioner's presentation and questions from the commission. To do so, please raise your hand and you will be recognized. At this time, I'd like the members of the commission to introduce themselves. I'm Alan Bogosian. Melissa?
You're muted, but that's okay. Nancy Nelson.
I muted myself.
I'm Nancy Frisella Lee.
I'm Mr. Michael Capizzi.
I'm Chelsea Cataldo. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Jesse.
Hi.
Doug?
And I'm not official yet. I'm Doug Ellis.
Okay. Lauren?
Yeah, same here, Lauren Meyer, but not yet official.
Okay. And
Sorry.
we definitely have a quorum on the meeting. So the meeting is officially called to order. The first order of business is a discussion on the Hanscom North Airfield Development Report, March 2024. And we were just talking about this earlier, Nancy. And we're thinking that you might be able to understand this a little better than there's a report that's, you know, the report, what is DEIR or?
From
Nancy's
You're muted. You're muted.
Sorry, the draft environmental impact report,
Yes.
which is a periodic environmental review of the current state of affairs at the airfield, and it's always a strenuous and difficult affair. This time, because of the proposal to expand the private airplane space hangars. It's particularly difficult. I don't know if anybody gets the updates from Save Our Heritage, but they're excellent. And Katie Winchell has been with Save Our Heritage forever and does a great job guiding people in terms of responses and suggestions. So I have not read it this time. I backed away from it.
Right. And I haven't read it, and Melissa and I were talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
I just was just saying that I know we have, and it may change, but the public comment period right now officially is May 10th. It may be extended, but since the Historical Commission has already gone on record in opposition to this expansion, I think I would propose that we submit another letter. I certainly know that the select board will do so, and I expect it will come from other towns as well. And I know they're obviously they're asking for a lot of citizen response as well. So anybody who can, and if you don't get the Save Our Heritage emails, as Nancy suggested, I'm happy to send them, because they do have what they call our toolkit, gives you an awful lot of facts, so you can craft your own response. But
It's a great tutorial.
Yeah,
Always.
They've also hired an independent environmental consultant to make sure that what they have found and what they claim is verified and verifiable, because they're concerned that, you know, Massport will obviously challenge their findings. So just saying to everybody, independent of the Historical Commission, if you would please go to that. And you know, it doesn't have to be a long letter, just be an email, but you know, to go on record in opposition.
So Melissa, are you proposing that the commission not send another letter? I thought you said the opposite.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think it would be egregious if we don't. Really, it's important, because we were
Yes, I agree.
early people. The
Yeah.
early-
But none of us have sat down and devised a letter or put a letter together, right?
Right. Anne, do you get Katie Winchell's stuff? She might not be there right this second. Oh, there she is.
No, I don't, but I did get,
Hmm.
communications from the town hall about
Oh,
the
good.
letter that's going to go out to the select board. So they asked for comment from staff. So I provided a bit just on small sections. I haven't read through the whole thing.
Okay,
I should definitely sign up for that mail list too.
yeah.
And I think Lauren had her hand up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought I just might add, I think it would be good in the letter to really get into section 106 and the, impacts to historic resources, very strongly, that really addresses, because the Historical Commission is really important in this process because it is a section 106 review. So you want to really get a little technical, not just in opposition. You really want to say it has the potential to have an adverse effect on nationally significant historic resources.
Lauren's using all the right words.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'd be happy to help out with that,
Yeah,
even if I'm not yet appointed, if that's useful.
That
Well,
was-
Very useful.
yeah.
and that was gonna be one of my next statements. Could we get a couple of us to sit down and draft up a letter? And it would probably take,
No.
15 or 20 minutes to put this together and then send it off.
So
What was the comment date?
May 10th, there is talk of maybe into extending it to June, but definitely. May
Right.
10th. The other thing would be helpful for Lauren, and you, well, I think we got it somewhere, that our original letter, our original communication to them. That would be helpful for you.
Yes, thank you. I'd love to see that.
Nancy?
I read what Anne sent us a couple weeks ago or days. It's all a blur. And that report, that wasn't written by DEIR, that was written by the actual developer.
And not DEIR. That's the name of the document.
Okay, so
It's a
but I
different
read-
DEI.
Okay, no, I said DEIR. That's what
I
I
know, I know.
But what you sent us was the report written by the proposal by the people who are proposing to develop it. Is that right? And I just wanted to make the comment, because I read through that tonight, and that they try to minimize the impact on historic resources.
Right.
And that was really disturbing, and I was I picked up that I think in December 2023, they did do an archaeology survey, and then a report was submitted at the end of last year. But they don't say anything about the national park. They really stay away from that.
Right, their study area was only half a mile square versus another report that we received recently was for a 45-mile square area.
Oh, yeah.
Because you
So it's
really,
artificially
don't you
small.
think you want to look at the flyover area?
Mm-hmm. Well, can I make a motion that we maybe get together like on a Tuesday or a Wednesday or something of next week to put something together? Do I have to make an official motion to do that, Anne, or
Mhm.
no?
I think you just do it.
Lauren could just get together.
Okay, all right.
You have to watch how many people there are, I think, but now we have a bigger membership by the time, make sure we have the bigger membership, and then I'd be happy to join that
Okay.
if
So,
it doesn't violate the rules.
right. Linda? Let's see.
Thank you for letting me join you. I just want to comment that the Hanscom Area Towns Select Board Committee will be meeting on the 25th of next week. And in fact, Neil Rasmussen will be there from Save Our Heritage talking to us. But I wanted to point out to you that we're also going to be crafting a letter that goes in from that group.
Are you the rep now that it seems to be gearing back up?
I have been for
Yeah, a long time.
a couple of years here. Thank you.
Oh, bravo. Brava.
Mhm.
Okay, so I guess we have to. Um, get the associates signed in, and then we can draft up a letter. So,
Might be to your advantage not having Laura be official, then you could have a few more people.
Oh, there you
Just
go.
be an interested citizen.
Counts.
That's a good thought, Melissa.
Yeah.
okay, well, that's an action item, so. All right. I will work on that. Number 2, parcel 1693, archaeology considerations. Do we have anything new on this, Nancy, with the?
I do, and I'm looking for my summary sheet, but I've put it in another stack. So I talked to one archaeologist who's well-known and has a lot of background around this kind of place. Lauren helped me with understanding the different levels of archaeological investigations. After I spent some time describing the 1693 parcel to him, he thought because of the length of the 120-foot long granite wall in an area that hasn't been really investigated, that maybe that what was required would be an intensive archaeological investigation that would require shovel test pits and maybe every 20 feet along that wall, and a permit from the state, which might take 4 days. And that does not, we didn't talk a lot about the Middlesex Hotel site, although that site's been filled, as another new member found out, was filled at the time of the burning of the hotel. It was that wreckage, and then the hole was filled with sand, and shortly thereafter it was loamed and seeded. So my question is whether or not that's a stable site to put all the paving and the columns in that exact spot, and we don't know exactly where that is or exactly where the proposed memorial elements are. So bottom line, maybe it would take 12 days between field work and report writing and waiting for the permit, and maybe in the neighborhood of $7,000 or less. And I want to talk to another archaeologist first to confirm that that's the right ballpark. But in the meantime, I could get back to Gary Clayton and the Permanent Memorial Subcommittee with what I had found out. And the archaeologists I spoke with suggested we speak with PAL, Public Archaeology Lab, because they have so much prior experience in this area and a lot of capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I think
they're a great group.
yes, and know so much already that it might be cost effective in the end.
Mhm.
So that's what I know so far. And I'm really glad that this came up, because I think it's really important to know, for them to know. And I'm surprised that the landscape architect that's helping them didn't do a site survey, site analysis way long time ago, because I don't know, Lauren, maybe you know how stable sand is. But I don't know, sand and fire debris, I don't know. So that's something they really need to know, even though they're not have too.
I mean, I know the landscape. I think is it Joe Hibbert? Is the landscape architect?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's very experienced. He's very tuned into historic properties. But I shouldn't say, but it seemed to me it was more of a conceptual approach. They haven't really gotten into the technical details yet. And so one might do more of a geotechnical analysis as you got closer and you're starting to think about what the actual engineering of the site was going to look like. So I think for now that was my sense of the project. So I wouldn't be surprised if they hadn't done any technical analysis yet.
Well, no, not too much, but maybe just they did send maps that showed the almost exact overlay of where the columns would go, and almost directly on top of the Middlesex Hotel site.
Yeah.
So, interestingly enough, they do keep calling it a conceptual plan, but it is moving crazy fast, like to design development, which is not conceptual anymore. And we haven't really seen alternatives yet. So that's another discussion that's been happening elsewhere. In many quarters, actually.
So
Okay, that's all I had.
I have a question, Alan. Do we know whether they have, or Anne, maybe, they have gotten an appointment to speak before the HDC yet?
I don't believe so. I don't.
No, they don't. They
Yeah.
certainly don't. Mhm.
Yeah. And maybe this is something that we can discuss at our joint meeting.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, in a week or so.
Sure to come up.
Yeah. So we can raise that as a line item on that meeting too.
Because I assume they don't, they're not thinking of spending $7,000 to $10,000 on any archaeological investigation, as we know.
No, because no, and they're still in the fundraising section anyway. They're trying to raise some money, right? So
They can't raise money without a more solid
They don't have a
concept
plan.
with approval. You know, it would be hard for a fundraiser to go to a donor and say, well, we think this is what we want to do, but we don't have any town approvals or anything.
Do we, Alan, do we want to send a formal letter to the subcommittee saying that our commission requests this archaeological study so that it's a formal, it's in writing?
We did that verbally, but that's not a bad idea. And
Otherwise, they're going to push back on that, I think.
yeah,
okay.
not a bad idea. And maybe raise, maybe state that there are many questions still about the general concept, and we're very happy it's still at the conceptual design stage.
Okay, so now we're on to 2 letters.
I'll help with this one.
Okay. So that's.
And Nancy has been to a lot of the meetings, so.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, so 1 and 2. All right. So we can see if we can maybe push for this, in the next week or so. I'll actually look and see what their schedule is. I don't know if they have any subcommittee meetings coming up.
They do, but I don't have the agenda or the date right here.
Okay, I'll look that up. That's.
And I will go.
Okay.
I can tell you when the last one was if you want them.
I want to say it was about 2 weeks ago,
It was
Nancy.
April 10th.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I didn't have the courage.
Okay. All right. So that's the second letter we'll be working on. Number 3, discussion of the Decoding Concord's tercentenary marker report by Nancy Frisella-Lee.
Our
So
very
this-
own.
Back from Australia.
So I don't know how you want this to go. Anne and I met this morning. We had a very productive discussion, and she gave me some very useful comments. Since I've been back, I'd put it aside for a long time, but I found, just minor corrections that need to be made, just formatting things, which I've already done.
Okay,
And so, just to report back, first time the commission looked at the report, I think was in September 2023. And then a lot of things happened in between, as you know. So after that meeting, I immediately made changes that based on what all of the members asked me to do, I made those, and also I continued to do research, which I've also incorporated. Now that the markers have been removed, the usefulness to the process of in the town is finished. So now this is just really a documentation, and I think the report just needs to be filed with special collections. And I just want to point out, one of the important things, I think the results of what happened is that probably after we've discussed this as a commission, I went back and was able to look at the history of all historical markers, historical marker programs that were inaugurated in other states. And that was really important piece, because what I learned was that Virginia was the first state in 1926 to start one of these programs, and Massachusetts followed, and then, many other states followed. And with the important difference that our state, our project of these markers, and there were, very limited number of them, only 264, I think, of them. Other states now have a couple of thousand, and all of those programs are run by professional historians or preservationists within the state body. And I think that's what people missed, that I finally kind of dawned on me. It's a very obvious point, but that's why the markers in our state, this group of markers, have never been reviewed by one single body. And so when Concord addressed it, we addressed it on the town level and ran into trouble. And other towns, Sudbury was the other town that tried to do what Concord has now successfully done. And they are still trying, the people who want the markers taken down are still trying to do that. And I'm in touch with that person, and she is going to use what Concord has done as a model. So I think that that's an important thing, that we should realize that Concord is now a role model for the state. And really, what would the responsible thing would be was that if the Mass Historical Commission or some other, they would be the people who would have to do that, is to take it on and say, we need to review it objectively. So that's all. I just wanted to say that that's why it's important for us to just kind of check this project off and file this within special collections, and then maybe send a copy to Mass Historical Commission. I don't know what people think about that. Does anybody have any other comments about it?
Well, can I just say, a couple things. I wonder from Anne, we're just, I thought that Megan Zamuto was convening a task force to address this and to make some recommendations what to do with the markers. Do you know what's happening there?
I haven't heard anything about that. Alan may know more.
no, and I haven't heard anything from her on what they're doing or where they are. But
I know, as far as I finally, I wasn't being invited to those meetings, and finally, I was invited, and we were supposed to have a meeting before I left on my trip, and then the meeting was canceled. I don't quite know why. Megan had been on vacation because of her children being off on school holiday. So it was her first day. The meeting was supposed to be, the first day that she came back from that. So maybe she just didn't have time. But I have had no emails about a rescheduling of that meeting. So it's a question that I have too. They're in storage, and what's going to happen? I'll send Megan an email. I'll follow up.
and I can follow, Nancy, I can follow up with Megan, as well.
Okay.
But I think, the important thing is that you've opened this line of communication, like we were talking about before. And people are talking and taking notice. So let me put that down as a line item for me.
So I have a question, another question then. I kind of like the idea that Nancy suggests to submit something to the Mass Historical, but would that be a little bit overstepping our bounds if we should go through Megan to do this?
How about if I talk to Megan first and
Yeah.
get a response, and then we can
Yeah,
on where her thumb is, and
I think that's a good idea too, because a question that I had, I'm curious about the protocol of sending things off to the archives and the special collections. There must be a protocol for that.
No, people donate to them all the time.
Well, that's not what yeah, okay, that's not exactly
The
what I
other,
mean.
the other thought actually is because this is it's a town commission, it's a town object, it might better be sent to Nate Smith, who is the
Oh,
town
yeah.
archivist.
Yeah.
I mean, he works with Anka, so it's,
I mean, Anka knows that she's aware of,
Oh, I
I've been talking about it all along, and she's the one who said, yeah, I want that when you're done. So
Yeah.
I'm not,
Definitely.
that's just not coming from me.
No, definitely. I was just curious about the protocols for, sending things off.
Sure. Yeah, and I agree to Mass Historical. It's just an idea. I know that we would have to go about it the right way. And
I don't know.
I guess my point is just that, if no one, I don't know how many people have noticed that what Concord has done. And, this is just a background to it.
mhm. It's interesting. Has there been any articles in the paper?
It's died down. I mean, there
Right.
were some outside, interest, but thankfully that died down. I was searching for those letters. I got a fun, this is an aside. I got a fun email from Nate today because I was missing the date. Remember the marker? I've discussed this. There's a marker in the Knoll section of Sleepy Hollow Cemetery that addresses Native Americans, that they lived near the river there. And I didn't know about it for a long time. In my overall survey that I'm still working on, I found that, and I didn't know, I couldn't find any information about when it was placed there. And of course, then that section of the cemetery isn't that old. It just was maybe 2002. I don't know quite the year. And so I made some inquiries. That was a missing piece of information in my report. And Nate today emailed me back and said that he found it. It was in 2006. And guess who I think installed it? And it's our commission, the Historical Commission. I was really surprised. So
Melissa's name on it.
Melissa's name on it, and it's just one sentence. It says, finally, a marker noting 10,000 years of Native American habitation in our area was installed in the Knoll section of Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. That's it. Other projects.
Didn't Tish Hopkins have something to do with that as well?
I'm sure
Cemetery
she did.
manager.
Could have been.
I've written to her too, but she hasn't, she was copied on that email, but she hasn't written back to me herself.
Gotcha.
So I was just wondering, it still remains to be known what instigated that, why the commission decided to even do that.
I think it was Shirley Blanca, actually.
Probably. Yeah, that would be the
Integral to
obvious.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
Well,
That was occasioned by the intent to expand the cemetery, is what I've heard.
and her work, yeah.
Right.
And she did the survey before that happened.
Right.
Okay, got it.
I've met with Shirley Blanca recently, and right, so and found a report that she had written about those three. It was a dig over 3 seasons. When the town was planning to expand the cemetery, they did the right thing and studied the land before digging into it, and they were able to find a wigwam and some other. I think it was a fire pit, which have been marked with metal spikes. So those 2 areas have been marked, and the marker was also put in
Yeah, well,
place.
that was speculation. They did find like a fire pit and then they found what they thought was a floor, and then they were speculating about what that could have been, and it could have been a wigwam. Yeah, it could have been a house. They didn't really quite know, and the spikes, they were just speculating of what certain holes could have been, and that's why they came up with that. But anyway, that, that's why it is a sensitive site, and that's not very well known in town. That's not something that we advertise where these archaeological findings have been made. It's kept close to the ground, but that's why that marker was put in that particular spot. But no one knows about it because, of course, not many people go to the knoll section of the cemetery. I don't know how many of you have been there. I only did it because I'm doing this general survey of monuments and markers.
I love cemeteries.
Me too.
I've been there.
All right, so my action item is to get together with Megan Zamudo and find out where those signs are and the next step. And maybe I'll Nancy get together with you and we'll see what they're doing.
Okay.
Okay. Next, I think Anne, the section 106 review on the antenna.
Right, so I did hear back from them, and it seems as if it is pretty innocuous that, they're not planning to build a new tower or anything. It's just more of the same. So we just wanted to double check that, and it seems as if it's fine.
It's 10 feet taller or something than what's there, or a little bit taller.
No, it was shorter.
It was? Oh, I thought it was short. I must have looked at the plan incorrectly.
Well, the boxes now for the satellites are about, I want to say 12 to 15 inches wide and maybe 6 feet high. And that's what they're sticking on the side of the buildings or the towers.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay.
So yeah, we just did one about 2 weeks or so ago, and that's about the size of them. So
you were working on that?
in a different in Waltham.
Oh.
On top of the building over there, yeah.
Oh.
I wouldn't go up there, but the young guys were up there. So do we have to endorse anything or give them our blessing on that, Ann, or?
No, I think if you take no action, then it's understood that it's fine.
Okay. Okay. Do we have to make a motion on that? No. Okay. So just for review. Next up, the 106 review, the Assabet River Trail. I actually, are we going to talk about that, Ann?
Right, I don't know if you're ready to. It just arrived just a couple of days ago, and I put up the information from MassDOT, which was, it didn't really say very much, but also I asked Elizabeth Hughes, my boss, who was working on that project, and she referred me to her CPC grant application. So that's also up on the website. I don't know if you had a chance to review it and if you're ready to talk about it, but I just thought we should bring it up so that you're aware.
I did, yeah. I made some copies and looked at it, and I mean they're going to be working on the train bridge as well as part of this project, I believe. So this is kind of going hand in hand with the whole redevelopment of the West Concord site over there where the bridge crosses the Assabet. Do you know, Melissa, in back of where Adelitas is?
It'll impact.
Yeah, I first of all, I didn't understand why, and maybe I really screwed this, but why is a 106 review required in this case?
Federal money
Yeah.
coming through the state.
But I thought we would be involved if there's some historic resource, and that's what I wasn't sure. What is the historic?
It's a consultation.
Usually they ask, pardon me for stepping in, but usually they will just they'll ask the question, do you as the historical commission, want to make a judgment? And it really depends on whether or not it directly affects any historic resources, or sometimes, say, with an antenna, not in the case of the one just discussed, but there's often a visual impact to a, historic property. So,
Okay.
so it could be that they're really looking for what's called adverse effect on a designated historic property. So it would depend on whether or not there was a visual impact or a direct effect of the construction.
Yeah, I don't know if have you gone back there, Melissa? Have you
Oh,
looked
yeah,
at?
they
Okay.
have had
Yeah.
a couple of public meetings over at Baker Avenue. So for certainly the area of the community around here, they've had a couple, and Elizabeth and before her, Marcia Rasmussen conducted these with the architects who are developing this. It's beautiful. I mean, I'm
Yeah, I
thrilled
agree.
with this. It's it will be such
It's interesting that it's coming up after so many years of
Oh, and-
evolution.
yeah, well, and
But
I think
it's
we're-
going to be a great thing.
and it comes across from, interestingly, will not be far from where the Novo 40B development is.
Right.
So it'll cross from Baker Avenue and end up close to where the Concord Park, where Concord Park is. So actually, it's visually, you could sort of see the Club Car Cafe, and that's historic.
Right.
Um, but I heartily support it. I think they're doing it is really would be a terrific asset to
Yeah.
the West Concord, well, to Concord, not just West Concord.
Yeah, it's
Right.
it's a
Yeah.
terrific project.
And that's how I feel too. I looked over the maps and, the topography maps that they had and all the information that that Ann had posted here. It's a good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other
And
thing
it's actually gonna clean that area up a little bit too.
yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. The other thing, I think there is state and federal money that is supporting this. It's not.
Yes,
Mhm.
that's what drags us in.
106, yeah, that's right. But anyway, it's very exciting.
You could just
Yeah.
write a letter that says, you've reviewed the project and it determined there is no adverse effect.
Right.
I think there's three of us.
Yep. Letter number 3.
Easy one though.
Yeah.
That's a fun one.
Short and sweet.
I wish that there was no picture. I didn't think there was because I've seen the architectural renderings of it. I mean, it's they've seen concepts. What it's going to be ultimately, I obviously not sure.
It should be in her application.
I didn't see it, but maybe I went through it pretty quickly. And anyway, I have
It
seen.
might be on CPC's website as part of their application. It didn't
Well,
make.
it's a lot cleaner than the copies I made off the copying machine, but it is a little bit more detailed. So.
Right.
But, okay. That's a bit, I'm just making notes here. Okay, and the next item. Elizabeth Watson, there you are, our historic preservation plan.
Yes, hello, how are you all?
Hi.
Doing
Nice
well.
to-
How are you?
Nice to see some new faces too.
Mhm.
Congratulations to everyone. Progress here. I think Anne was going to lead most of this conversation. The plan is bridging now, phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 was what we would have liked to have had be a quiet phase, but we spent a lot of time doing some interviews and other things that are expected for phase 2. And phase 2 is a public outreach, as we've all talked about. And we feel that it's necessary to go ahead and get the survey going. And we're also excited about seeing all of you next week, me in person, actually, health and weather willing, but I expect so. And to join with the HDC and talk about, in general, preservation programs in Concord. What's good, what's working, what are you thinking you need, and just give us some direction in terms of developing for phase 3 the recommendations. Basically from phase 1, when we're doing some background research, as you all have heard from me about the National Register and the surveys and that sort of thing, that all that has to fold into what we learn from you and the public and other people that we interview, and you know, trying to scrape up as much information and guidance as we can, and then coming up with ideas for recommendations. You know, what do you need to do first, second, third, and fourth? So it'll be less prioritized than that in the beginning. We'll all be winnowing and working to make the recommendations as good as we can. And of course, for the last phase, for those of you who haven't heard some of this, is of course drafting the plan.
Mhm.
So one of the parts of phase 2 is to reach out to the public. And one of the simpler ways, although I think one of the things that we wanted to talk with you about tonight is that Concord gets a lot of surveys. This is not normal for our practice. We usually are in smaller and less expert communities. You know, the likes of having Nancy and Lauren on the screen is just like awesome for someone who practices in historic preservation, and all the rest of you. You're so experienced. So, you know, to have the opportunity to talk to the Concord community through the survey is something we really want, but we also don't want to impose. We don't want to bore people. So we're looking for your advice tonight. Anne, how would you like to do this? She step away?
No.
No, sorry, I'm still here.
There she is.
Well, there's a draft agenda for next Friday, which I don't know if it makes sense to, I think it was sent to Alan and Melissa, and also to Dennis, and I'm not sure if you all wanted to take a peek at that and see if you had comments, and does that make sense?
Just like
Yeah.
just
I think it makes sense. Also, a quick question.
Mhm.
I presume this is through Zoom, but if it's possible, could we do a hybrid? Some of us,
No, it's going to be in person.
In person.
it will be in person.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Okay.
Where?
Here, I think I need to just check to see which room is available, but it should be here as long as we have a room available. Yeah. So here we go. Oops. So can you see this?
Yep.
yes.
Yep, yep.
So sorry, so Elizabeth had put this together. You know, it's really kind of just as she was saying, sort of a SWOT analysis. What is working well? What are your challenges? What resources do you need? And other questions. We thought we'd, you know, since it's a joint meeting of the HTC and Historical Commission, we thought, you know, the questions might differ for each group. And, you know, each group will have its own expertise, but it's probably helpful for the other group to, you know, understand what the other group is doing. And, you know, both groups have expertise, and you can sort of exchange ideas and, you know, build a better program with more communication, I think. So sort of one session for the HTC, one for the historical, and then talking about the survey a bit, and then, you know, just closing observations.
Yeah.
So
Great.
Does that sound productive? Any comments?
I think it sounds great.
I have a question. I know that you sent out these suggested survey questions, right? Elizabeth, right? I think Alan and I got that today.
Yeah, as sort of the you know, close-in advisors for Anne, we copy you on these things, but we're Anne and I are still in the middle of winnowing.
Okay.
And
that's what I just
yeah.
wondered if you were going to send it to everybody to
when we get it tonight, what we'd like is just some guidance and talking with you all about your experience of surveys and what you would really like to hear from the community. And then Anne and I will work to put together a survey. It's possible, we feel pretty optimistic. It's possible we could get something done before next Friday. And in fact, we might not need to take those 10 minutes on the coordination of the survey on your agenda, but we're going to leave it there. And you know, if there's any conversation you all want to have about the survey if by that time we've been able to issue it. We're trying to keep it simple and friendly, and but we wanted to test three questions that we really like on you guys to just see what you think, and it will help. This should help you tell us what you'd like to hear from the community. You all are always concerned about, how are you reaching the community? What does the community know? How do they see you? Any of those kinds of things. So we're really needing to get people from the community to tell us, how they see things. So these are some set some goal setting a little bit to get people to sort of focus on all the different things. One of the things about doing this survey, one of the better reasons for doing it really, is those people who are interested enough to pick up this survey should feel they've learned a little something. Melissa, you still have your hand up?
Oh,
Or-
I'm sorry. No, whoops.
Okay,
Nope.
okay, thanks. So, we want people to be thoughtful about the responsibilities that the town and the community have for historic resources and all the different ways that you think about it. So we want to choose questions that will give people a sense of the breadth of historic preservation and how much it contributes to the quality of life and other things. So, Anne, do you want to carry us through this first one here?
Sure. So let's see. We had looked at different surveys done like in Austin and in Salt Lake City, and other places. And, some of these sort of popped out that, they might, it's difficult to know, we want to sort of tailor the survey to Concord and what will resonate with Concord people. And, this is what I thought might resonate with Concord people, but I'm not entirely sure. So, right. So how important are each of these following goals to you? Help older neighborhoods and commercial districts maintain their unique look and feel as Concord grows. Improve tools that help historic property owners represent the diverse communities and complex history of Concord. Encourage environmental sustainability through preservation. Ensure longtime residents and businesses can afford to stay in their current spaces. I mean, those are sort of universal, and people don't necessarily think about this when they think about historic preservation, but this is what we do. And I think that it's important to sort of get that message out there so that people understand.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So I'm just seeing this for the first time now. And I'm assuming that you're going to send this out by mail to each household. Is that correct? Is that the plan?
We were going to do an online survey. I don't think that we have enough funding to do a community-wide mailing.
So,
but there would certainly be
who will be answering the survey?
Right. Well, luckily the town has a great communication staff, and so they'll help, spread the word, put it up on the website as the town has done with the MBTA communities. And
Would it also go in the paper?
oh, interesting. Right. We could certainly, yes, we could have a notice in the paper to let folks know.
I guess my thought of looking at these questions is that, I'm reading them and they're so general, and because of the nature of Concord, who makes up our community, I can't see many people saying not important enough to any of these questions. So maybe you're seeing this more as a way to get people thinking rather than the answers are not statistically important. Because I just can't see anybody, I could almost guess about what the response would be. Most people would say, all the answers are there. It's very important. Concord is the most, one of the most historic towns in the whole country. And why wouldn't people say these things are very important? We're a very well-educated community. So that's my comment in my first impression. And I
So
can't
would
see
you
the
think
bottom,
maybe
but I can
rank
only
them?
see the first few questions. I can't see the
Well,
whole.
just this one. I mean, this is really to inspire this kind of comment. Nancy, is extremely helpful. I think the only reason you've touched on several things that are important to talk about. One is that this is not going to be a statistically valid survey. This is simply there's just not a way to do that professionally through here. We're simply trying to get some guidance from the community, those who are interested enough to reach out through the various kinds of marketing that you all have talked about. There is something to be said for putting things in that are obvious, at least early in the survey, where people can simply say, "Oh yeah, that's what preservation is about. Oh, I care about that," and just feel good that they were able to answer a question, of some relative complexity. They'd have to, read it and think about each one. You're right. It is an easy one, and I would be extremely disappointed if someone told us it's not important at all.
Right.
So, we're really trying to push down the number that we have. One of the things that this particular question also suggests is that we do need to do some goal setting for this plan. And I think we should talk about that next week. These five tend to touch on a little bit of what goals are. One of the things that we owe you is sample plans from elsewhere, where we want to talk to you about goals. And so you can see other communities have set their goals. And so, this is not meant to be the goals for the plan, but just simply to help people see the breadth of things that we have to think about as we construct the historic preservation plan.
Nancy?
So I had three things. I'm disappointed that there's not going to be a broader distribution, but I think you can fix some of that with a strategy that, some of those things came up. But I would suggest that some of the questions be open-ended so people are able to give you more than just not important, neutral, very, so that and to ask what confuses them or interests them about historic preservation or the commission in general. I'm not sure about the last one. Frankly, I'm not sure how we influence the affordability for long-term residents. And I noticed that there's nothing here to actually improve the condition of existing historic resources that might be at risk, and archaeological resources. So I think that's maybe my biggest one, to put a finger on exactly what we're supposed to be doing, which is preserve, protect, and those resources. And I'm really, I'm glad to hear you say it's not a statistically valid survey, because I think most of the surveys that I've seen around town are not, but they're slanted towards, amplifying the goals of the commission or committee that puts it around.
And, that's not a bad thing to do. And it gives people an opening, and maybe would seek you out in other forums to talk to you about these things. Should we go on to Lauren? Nancy, is that all right?
Yeah.
Thanks. I really follow Nancy's lead on this. I agree with what she said. Absolutely. I was sort of wondering if we needed a little bit more specificity in the questions. And again, forgive me, I'm the new kid on the block, so I'll apologize ahead of time. But you could ask an open-ended question like, is Concord doing enough to preserve and protect its historic resources? Is it doing enough? And then you could ask, what else would you like to see? That would be an open question that'd be really interesting, I think, to hear from the community about what they would like to see happen. And that would, I think, but Elizabeth, correct me if I'm wrong, help inform, where you might go with some recommendations. But, on the affordability front, I think, that's an interesting issue related to demolition delay.
Yeah, definitely.
Because, I mean, we had this problem in my, previous community where, it was the more modest, dwellings that were being, and sometimes they were vernacular, but, they were being replaced with, not so modest dwellings. And that was increasingly raising the average, house price. So there is, I think, a relationship between affordability and preservation tools.
Oh, I agree with that. I just don't know what our role is in ensuring that residents can stay in their homes.
Right. It's indirect, perhaps.
Mhm.
Yeah. Thank you.
Nancy, Melissa?
Well, I was just going to encourage Elizabeth. I only just saw this today, but in fact, you do have many more questions that address what both Lauren and Nancy have
Yes.
said. That this
Thanks,
is
Melissa.
in defense of Elizabeth's work. There's a whole lot more.
Well, actually, we decided, we just the process for you all to know that, we did the preservation plan for Sudbury, so we administered a survey in Sudbury, and we gave that to Anne. And while my attention was elsewhere, she went off and did some amazing, wonderful research. And so we are working right now off a 7-page document, of which these are 3 selections, just to get this kind of conversation and guidance from you. So thank you.
Yeah.
And so what we want to do is, with your guidance tonight, and then Anne's research and the previous survey and the structure we have and all that we put it together and try to figure out how to keep our enthusiasm to within bounds, so that we don't impose on people with a really big survey, which we could do.
Right. Right.
Just think of the horsepower you have here, all of us.
Yeah.
So we have to,
though.
I'm sorry?
You want them to fill it out, and so you don't want to.
Yeah. I mean, we've toyed with the idea. I don't know if this is really even worth doing, and you guys should tell us. I mean, should we do a double-barreled survey where we give people, the 6 basic questions we want to hear from everybody? Anybody who's enthusiastic about this, we give them a link and they go to a second survey. How much do we need to know? How much do we want to know? How much do we have time to analyze, or some of the questions that go into that particular decision? Yeah. Nancy?
After listening to this discussion, it seems to me, again, that an article in the Concord Bridge might be useful to explain what the Historical Commission and this, just to explain the project, why we're doing it, and then that would get people more interested in doing the survey, and just say, we need your input, otherwise it won't be, this project won't be as useful to the town, because it is for the town. So that would motivate people. And again, people here in this community are so interested in the town, that I think that would give them impetus to want to participate in the survey. And I agree, the questions are so generic that I think if you have more open-ended questions and give people a chance, maybe you won't want to get so many responses, maybe it'll be too much for you to read, but I think people would take the time to write more detailed information if you give them the prompts.
Yes, well, and
I agree.
actually, speaking of prompts, we are less fearful of qualitative questions, because we think we might be able to use ChatGPT to help us with that analysis. It has a bear in previous. I will tell you, as a preservation planner, and it gives me wonderful insight into the community to read those open-ended questions, the answers to those open-ended questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really, it's just, there's nothing like it, really. But summarizing it is another thing. So
Yeah,
we hope we have a tool here now. Thanks, Nancy.
I also thought, Elizabeth, that we had talked about possibly you having a public forum that where you could launch this in addition to the article. I think that the bridge could be very helpful. I agree with Nancy on, because we need to get it out to the community that this is coming for you. We encourage you to participate. we also, I thought, talked about maybe having something at the library for the whole community.
Mhm.
Whoever comes, it's always a challenge, but to launch this, is that still the thinking?
I think that you're conflating a couple of things. We do want to have a general public forum, but at the sort of more at the end of the
Okay.
process, so
Understood.
that for one thing, I've been coached through all the interviews and meetings with stakeholder groups and that sort of thing, so that when we get to the public, you know, I'll be as knowledgeable as possible and standing in front of, you know, 200 interested Concordians. But I do think the idea of maybe, since I'm coming up this coming week, that maybe we could have me interview with the bridge if you'd like.
Sure.
And then they
Yes.
run a feature article that sort of puts it out there. And I can talk about that further. So thank you. That's a nice idea. I think, did I meet the person who's involved in the bridge? I think when I was here in December, I think I did.
Well, there's someone named Celeste and she's great. I've worked with her and she's really great. And
Okay.
I know her, I could make inquiries and encourage her.
Oh,
that'd be
I just
great.
want to make one humorous comment about that. And this is my own, just, you know, so many, now that I'm, you know, involved with the CHC and I'm going to more events, I notice that, you know, like in any community, the same people show up. And you really want younger voices. So I think if there's a little humor in this Concord Bridge, say, please, you know, if you please jump in, if you've never commented on anything, you're the one who we want to hear from. You know, if you're not involved with historic things, you're the people we want to hear from. You know, put some things in the writing that appeal to younger people and a different audience that we don't always hear from, rather than the same people all the time.
Good luck.
It is.
Good luck, but you can always try. And, you know, I wrote an article, I don't know if you know, guys know, I wrote an article about the tercentenary markers, and I've gotten some really interesting responses, and they weren't from anybody that I know. And it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's great.
So should we go to the next question, just
Sure.
to keep the conversation going?
Sure.
Yeah. So, and these are also sort of examples of the styles of questions that we can ask. We're not going to put this through SurveyMonkey, which I'm most familiar with, but we're going to use Microsoft Office, a tool that Microsoft Office has, which the town has used consistently before. So we'll do that. But this is just to give you an idea of some of the other things that we could do. You know, historic preservation is a tool that helps support a variety of town planning and development goals. Please rank the following goals according to how well you perceive they are being achieved in Concord. Reading that out loud makes me think there might be some editing there, but basically to sort of help people, this question will help people see that historic preservation planners and advocates think about a wide variety of different ways that preservation intersects in the community. So we wanted to give people a list to think about that. You know,
Do you think everyone's going to understand what all of these elements mean?
No.
good
From a
question.
planning,
Like gentrification, you know,
yeah, compatible infill.
Compatible infill.
I mean,
I agree. Also, gentrification is not such an issue for Concord.
No,
Right.
But
It's not.
only desirable neighborhoods.
That's happening in so many neighborhoods. Don't you think?
yeah, the tear down issue is
Gentrification.
that's a big problem. Well, I don't think of that as gentrification so much in
But
Concord.
it is.
It is.
Urbanization.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think that's how they identify with it, though. I think Lauren brings up a good point that I think that's what you think of in Boston, what happened to the South End or the
Right.
South.
But it's
Or-
the same thing. Affordable housing is converted to luxury housing.
I know, but I'm just saying, you're talking to a Concord audience.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about the word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it could be called something else.
Right. But it's not like, you know, how Alewife was back in the 60s, you know,
right.
but and now you can't, now Alewife is totally different.
right. Well, we're talking about a different form of neighborhood change, but just
Mhm.
Concord
Right.
using it. Yeah. Okay, well, that's good. You know, we can work on this one. I feel like it's not how well those goals are being achieved, but how well historic preservation has been helping these goals, maybe. So you have to think
Well,
about how we
I don't think
we
people
present
think,
it.
I think that's what we're gonna find out. People don't see historic preservation helping any of these goals. Because
Right, and I would tend to agree with Melissa. I don't think,
Yeah.
we're.
because Concord's always been Concord. Concord's always been Concord. It's been,
Now, what does that mean, Alan? What does that mean?
it's just been a terrific, great place to be and to live and to raise families.
But, you know, but we are losing the older homes, smaller homes, affordable homes. We have preserved the downtown because we've created historic districts. So that we're trying to get people to think, I mean, what Elizabeth talked about, the very first set of questions is not so much expecting to get strong responses, but to lay the groundwork of what we're trying to get them to think about.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's a
We still need
cause and
to get-
effect.
Yeah,
for
we
everything.
still need to get good answers from this one
Yeah.
if we're going to use. Yeah. Okay, I think we got one more, Alan, Ann.
That's a good one, but that's tough to tease out.
Oh boy, it sure is.
Yeah. I like it, but it's tough to figure that one out.
Yeah,
But this is a survey, right? So this is just seeking feedback on how the residents perceive that
yes,
this is helpful. Is that correct?
right.
Mhm.
Yes. And I have to mention that this particular form of question is the hardest one of all. You know, you're being required, well, with the exception of actually having to rank, like, you know, only one of these could you have as number one or that sort of stuff. But this is a complicated question. We're gonna have to think about whether we use this or we try to tease some of this out at the same time. I think we do want to ask a question like this, don't you? To what extent do you believe that existing historic preservation regulations and policies in Concord benefit the town? And, you know, you could make it an open-ended thing. How does preservation benefit Concord, and just see what people say. But we like to give people multiple choice also.
It will be interesting because I think a fair number of people are not aware that there are existing preservation regulations that the people who live in a historic district do. People who may want to tear down a property will, but it will be interesting because I don't think a lot of people know
There's
this.
an education process with this last question.
Yes. All three,
Yeah.
really. Yeah.
I think this set of questions is clearer than the previous one
Yeah.
in my mind, and easier to answer. But
Yeah.
that's probably because I'm in the weeds in, you know, the regulations and policies.
If I'm not mistaken, I think you're picking up on the difference in survey writers in the mix that we're working with.
Yeah,
Ann and I. Yeah, I kind of like this one too. I'd like to play with it just a little bit, but maybe we can make
I
it
think
work.
you could tweak it a little bit.
Yeah.
Some categories may be more relevant than others, perhaps.
Yeah.
Nancy? Nancy? She there?
Nancy Nelson.
I'm sorry. I'd like to know if people believe that the Historical Commission contributes in any way to not each one of these, but I'd like to know what people think the value of the commission is and where it could be doing more. I think this might be able to get partly there. But I'm curious to know if people have any idea what we do.
But
That's
yeah,
interesting.
I agree. And I mean, the only people that seem to really know what we're doing are Public Works because they're in opposition to some of the things we're
Yeah, well, I
They
could
know
say,
who we are.
Right. Never discount the negative.
yeah,
Yeah. But Nancy, actually you framed, I mean, this is sort of part of what we wanted to do is, what you just said is what do people think is the value of the commission and what should the CHC be doing?
yeah. What should
I
we
think-
be doing? Yeah, I'd like to know what they want us to do. Get out of my business.
Right. Well, that's probably, we probably don't have a model question quite for that. And I think maybe we need to think about that. Ann and I can develop sort of a list of roles that you play and just let people talk about, give us on a spectrum of, do more of this or less of this or something like that. One of the things that I'm only half joking when I say, watch out what you wish for in terms of what,
Yeah.
Yeah.
only ask the questions you want answers to.
But see, that's the problem I have with a lot of town surveys.
I know.
You only get to answer the way they want you to respond and
Right.
learn something.
Yeah.
Doug, is this in your experience? I'm seeing that you're.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this. A lot of the questions are kind of leading, like how great of a job am I doing on this?
Yeah.
Kind of good, really good. And I do like the open-ended questions much more.
Yeah,
Just
I
to
agree.
start off with just the general scope of what we do, and are you aware that we do this? Are you aware of these different pieces?
I think even with a question like the last one that we saw, it's possible to create sort of, and what else are you thinking? Put it like tag it with an open-ended question as a sort of pair, and try to get at some of that way. Because I'm leery of asking people without some of these leading
Structure.
this leading information
Structure.
structure, whatever. If you give them sort of, well, tell us what you think about this historical commission. And it means this is the lumper splitter problem. Okay, so let's lump it all into one question. What do you think about the historical commission? You're going to get nothing, because they don't have enough to be able to give you advice. So we have to sort of shape the survey so that we get enough information in there that they become thoughtful for us, and then give us some open-ended questions, open-ended answers, and see what we can get.
Lauren?
Okay. Yeah.
I think there's a need to explain what the role and function is of the Historical Commission versus the Historic District Commission.
I think we do, with these surveys, you should always have an introduction. And I do think
that
you have to
has
give
a
some
clear,
clear basic information. We've got the mission, your mission's very clear on the first page, something like that. And for each of them, and half the respondents might say, "Oh, you mean there's two different ones?"
Yeah.
exactly.
One,
some communities, every community, handles it a little bit different. They might have multiple historic district commissions, or they might lump everybody together in one. As probably Elizabeth, you've probably had that experience, but but I think on the actual survey, then if you're going to ask a question about the role of the Historical Commission, you might want to explain what the Historical Commission is and does.
Yeah, we have somebody new on the screen here.
Stephen?
Thank you, Stefan Bader, 7 River Street. I understand you may not have the budget to do a townwide mailing. However, it would be fairly easy and much smaller to do a mailing to all of the residences within the historic districts. I don't know if that's 200 or 300, but they have the biggest stake in all of this at the moment, and I think they should get some sort of special targeted high touch outreach.
And do you think
I
the
happen
town
to
would
full disclosure, I happen to be one of them.
No, that makes perfect sense.
It does.
Right. And I think there should be enough grant money to get that done. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a great
Thank you very
suggestion.
much.
Thank you, Stefan.
However, we would still try to get others because it's the other people who we want to care, like the people in the Southfield area. That's the area near Crosby's Market, which is just being decimated. All the little houses are being torn down, big houses are going up.
Mhm.
And so much of West Concord there's no historic coverage, historic district coverage there. I understand what Stefan's saying. Because those people, lived in one for 30 years and I was really angry with the HDC much of the time. But there's a whole lot of Concord that we want to educate as well as get their opinions about this.
I could look into the cost to see, what does it cost to send out a townwide mailing?
I was going to ask that question. I'd be very
Yeah.
curious to know the answer
Yeah,
to
me
that.
too. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, some communities, like the ones that own their own utilities, have utility bills they can pop it into,
Yeah.
And if only just a card, the expense is not just mailing it, but if we're dealing with paper, then it becomes a much more expensive process of posting the answers into digital analysis form. So, better would be to make sure that everybody knows about it and encourage them to go into it. And with something on there that says you can pick up a paper copy at the library,
Yep.
or you can call us and we will mail you the entire form, something that basically acknowledges that not everybody's digital. But to start with, to just encourage as many people as possible to use it digitally. And most people these days, I think, are happier to do it that way. They'd rather do it on screen.
Nancy Nelson?
I would just like to say, I think the people in historic districts are very important, but we're very concerned in this planning process, I think, and I think people have maybe gotten to this point with those resources we're missing in terms of protecting or even knowing about.
So
Yeah.
I have another question. Why can't we do it through a QR code in the newspaper? I mean, how many people subscribe to the paper? There are a lot of other options, I think.
Yeah, that's good.
That's a great idea.
The league could do something.
Lauren, do you?
Yeah, I just wondered, forgive me again as the newbie, does Concord have a historic resource inventory?
Yes,
So
pretty good one. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's more than just the historic districts, right? There are going to be a lot of other properties that are important that may be discontiguous with and therefore not, in a district. So I think limiting it to just historic districts would really miss a lot of properties.
Yeah.
We could ask the MHC. It might be possible to extract the addresses of the nearly 2,000 sites we have.
Yeah,
and
they
just
might be
simply
able to do a
blind.
database dump from Macris.
Right. Right.
Yeah, for you.
Yeah.
Nancy Frisella Lee?
I was thinking along the same lines as Melissa, and that is either actually printing, asking Concord Bridge if they would put the questions right in the newspaper, but or a flyer in the newspaper, but you still want the results online, I guess. So that defeats the purpose.
Well, that's why a QR code, you could have the QR code. I'm just mindful of, remember when we spoke with the folks from the DEI Commission, how they reached out to the community, the different ways they did that. And one of them was using a QR code, and they had sort of it everywhere. Although I don't remember.
I don't think they had a good response.
Is that right? Okay.
Really? Huh.
But I'm not sure.
In terms of the youth audience, we need to make sure that it's cell phone compatible.
Well, that's the QR code. That's why.
That's the QR code, all that. So yeah.
It's me that wouldn't use a QR code.
Melissa, you'd be the only one with the QR issue.
So I would get it.
No.
I'm right there with you, Melissa. Don't worry.
Okay.
All right.
So actually, I'm wondering if there's anyone who would want to work with Elizabeth and and me on this. Is there anyone with a special interest in developing the survey, sort of getting into
Just
the
a
nuts and
couple
bolts
of
of
you.
it?
Just a couple of us. Well,
Just wondering.
I could, are you going to do it, how do you do it? Or do you meet in person or?
No,
Just the
it'll
question.
be email.
I
Email.
mean, I'd be willing
Yeah.
to, I don't know how,
And we could,
I'd
you
be,
know,
but
originally we had hoped to get this out before the town meeting. Now, we had an underlying reason for doing that has disappeared, if you all know what I'm talking about. So it's not so urgent. And I think if we want to take a little time, I mean, we certainly could use you guys as our guinea pigs to all of you take this. Once we have a couple of you help us get it to, workable, usable piece, then we'll run it to you guys and you guys can test it for us. Right in the, online and the whole bit, you're rehearsing with us. So we would love to do that.
We'll be able to make a good dent in this on next Friday, won't we?
Well, we will not, listen, there's not nearly enough time to do this next Friday. Next Friday would be to snatch a couple more people off the HDC to help us if we stalled out and haven't gotten it done by next week. Yeah.
Well, holler if you need anybody.
yeah, I
Okay.
mean, I could help you, but I don't know how useful again I'd be, so.
Well, you've all been very helpful. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, that was great.
Okay. Hmm. There we are. All right. And that's historic preservation. So we will see you next week, Elizabeth.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it.
Looking forward to it. Yeah. And the update for the Wright Tavern.
Right, did you just want to mention that we did the site visit?
Yeah, we when was that? Last week or this week?
Thursday.
I can't keep
last
track.
Thursday.
I can't remember, but we walked through, myself, Melissa, and Nancy. Am I forgetting anyone?
Oh, Doug, right.
I was there.
And
And
Dan Frost
Doug was there, right?
Dan Frost was there, yeah.
Yeah, and they've done some serious work over there, serious in a good way. They put a lot of lally columns in the basement, really spruced up the structure, and I would say probably 8 feet on center. There's probably in the basement 16 of them, maybe.
I didn't count. Lots.
A lot.
Lots, yeah, and then they've replaced some of the rotted out, and I mean rotted out beams on the first floor. And they've really done an excellent job in the construction.
In the attic, a lot of work in the attic.
Oh, big time, everywhere.
And then up in the attic, and they're using, and I can't remember the type of process that they're using in the attic, but when they're finished, they're going to remove the structures so it looks like we weren't even there. And it's going to go back to the old wooden structure, and the steel's going to be taken out of there. So it was very impressive. Others that were there? Nancy, Melissa, Doug?
Well, it was a really extensive process, and a lot was taken apart, and they found a lot when they took things apart that you could be happy that they did. I didn't hear the same thing about the attic going back to the way it looked. I heard that those tie rods or cables would be taken out when the roof was done over next. But in the meantime, those great big things that go from one side to the other, holding the frame together up there. I'm no architect, so.
And then when they finish, they're going to remove all of that.
Only when they do a new roof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just reiterate how important the addition of Lynn Spencer is to this whole team.
Absolutely.
Because she has saved their bacon.
Right.
Absolutely.
And the Wright Tavern. And
yeah.
Yeah, she's a good egg.
Yeah. And she's very patient and persistent.
Yeah. Terrific. She's
And
terrific.
on top of it all, Tom Wilson was ecstatically happy in Patriots Day because he had oyster shots at Sam Adams outside.
Yeah.
Nobody was inside though. To Melissa's point about they need exhibition.
Oh,
Yeah, I did reach out. I did send back and forth to, I was concerned that so many things were just left unguarded and for people to touch, and it just drove me nuts. So I did encourage you to get some plexi bonnets and to put things behind plexi, and they are doing that. I don't know how far they've gotten, but they are doing that. Because, things have a way of just walking away if you're not
Yeah.
protecting.
A lot of portable stuff.
mhm.
I have a question for you guys. Did they find, in doing this work, did they find out anything that they didn't know that's interesting to the history of the building?
No,
Aside from
I
things that are
think
falling
they-
apart.
I think they found more damage than they anticipated.
Yeah. Incredible termite damage.
Yes,
Termites and every kind of bug imaginable,
right.
fires
Yeah.
Fire.
that never really took hold. It could have completely taken the place down.
Right.
Yeah. 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 It's a relief.
It might be interesting because Lauren, you weren't able to go to ask Tom, and I'm sure he would happily provide another tour. Maybe if Lynn is available, if not, even just Tom, just to show you what they've done.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the weather was really bad, wasn't it?
Can't remember,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the snowy day, but it
Yeah.
was just a little messy.
but
It wasn't so bad.
I was,
it's important to see it because, we do have a preservation restriction that we are still hammering out.
yeah.
And they have been coming before the Historical Commission for 4 years.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I'd like to see it. I was away, so if you want to do that with me, I'd be willing to do that, yeah.
Yeah. Sounds good.
We can reach out to Tom and have him set it up. That's,
Yeah, I was
Great.
there on Monday and there were other people inside. And you walk around the floor and you don't feel any creaking. I mean, it just really feels solid. And
Good.
you know what's under, yeah, I know what's underneath.
Yeah.
And you can tell once you know that you're just, they did it right.
Did you say any docent type people though?
No.
Public people were in there. There is one thing that they've discovered that I think is really, really interesting. There's that wall in one of the back parlors that is a modern wall, and they were going to take it down. And what you can see now is that there's modern sheathing around a section of a really, really, really old wall. I don't know how far that old wall goes, but when they take the modern sheathing down, it's going to be really interesting to see. They'd like to take that whole wall down, period, and but that was before they knew there might be something really cool underneath it, because it would open up a space downstairs. But if that wall is as old as I think it looked, did you see it, Doug?
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't you think it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
old?
Yeah.
Really old.
It was cool.
So that could be fun.
Cool.
That could be really fun.
it could be paintings or whatever behind there. Or
Could be what?
paintings on the old original wall.
Oh, could be
Oh, wow.
You
Yeah.
never know. You never know.
Golly.
Covered up.
like a mural or something.
Yes,
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah.
Cool.
Order.
Really cool.
So,
Can
Oh.
only wish.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I think that's it. Any other comments or
You want to do minutes?
minutes? Oh. September and October.
Yeah.
Um,
I love these minutes. They're very concise and readable and seemingly very accurate. I had no comments.
I move that we approve the minutes of 9/14 and 10/12/23.
do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nancy?
Are you talking about me? I didn't know that we were going to do that, so I'm
Oh,
not
I can't, and I
I'm
can't.
prepared to vote. Either way, was that on our agenda?
Done.
We're-
Yeah. last thing?
Yeah, the last thing we,
So I'm just gonna just abstain because I didn't know that. Can I abstain from voting?
Yeah.
We'll have one.
yeah,
You have the
Mike,
majority.
did Michael vote?
Michael
Mike-
voted.
Did
Michael
Mike vote?
voted,
Oh,
right?
he voted. Oh, good.
Yeah.
So that's good. We're
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, so that's what the three of us. Right?
I can't get used to my new status.
So the minutes are approved.
Thank you.
The minutes are approved.
Yeah.
And there's nothing else. Do we have a motion to adjourn the April 18th meeting? Unless there's other comments?
People always used to tell me that you don't need to do that, so I don't think you need to do that. I think you can just make a declaration, Al.
Oh, so
That's
I'm leaving then.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I hear.
I now adjourn the meeting.
Bye, everybody.